Hey there guys, what's going on? Gale right here. Welcome back to the YouTube channel once again for another Danmachi Memoria Freeze video, and today we are here with a complete guide as to how to craft, how to level up, and how to perfect your weaponry and armor pieces in Danmemo. Now, of course, this video has been kind of done before by myself previously, but I kind of glossed over a lot of things and I made it a very simple guide, right? A very straightforward guide. This guide, however, will be a lot more in-depth. I'm going to be explaining the, step-by-step process of how I, for example, craft my gear, how I make sure it's ready to go on my units and stuff like that. I will also be showing you guys exactly where to farm, what to farm, and how to farm your, pieces, materials, whatever you may need to be able to make sure your gear is the best of the best. Now, if you guys are going to enjoy this video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and of course comment down below what do you guys think of the weapon and gear system in Danmemo. Do you guys think it's one of the better gear systems in the gacha game scene, or do you think it's alright at best? Let me know, because I personally like it. I personally think it's one of the better ones for sure, but I do understand that there are flaws to it still, of course, right? But that's besides the point. Let me know what you guys think down below. Now, this video is going to be a little bit more off the cuff. It's like why I said earlier on, it's what I said earlier on, is that this is going to be a step-by-step process of how I craft my weapons and armor pieces, purely because I didn't have this plan. This video wasn't actually going to be happening today, but then I realized I didn't have a video for today because all the other videos that I have in mind will be coming out in the next couple of days, not today. So I was kind of running around trying to figure out what to do, and then I thought, you know what, let me make this video because I feel like I can give you guys a much better idea of what to do when it comes to crafting weapons and armor pieces and stuff like that, okay? Alright, so crafting. And we're starting with crafting because I do have to admit the purchase tab is probably one of the most useless tabs in this game, in all honesty. It's good for beginners. I would say, if I had to say anything good about it, is that as a beginner, as a new player, you could probably pick up any of these and just rock with it at the start of the game. But in all honesty, you don't. You want to immediately switch over to craftable items, in all honesty. You do not want to stay on these for any longer than you can. And in terms of the Hestia knife and magic Hestia knife, in all honesty, you will get 2 for free. So you really don't need this unless you're really running a team of only belts and stuff. And I highly doubt you are. I highly doubt you will be running only a team of belts, okay? So bear that in mind. Both the weapon and armor purchases aren't great. You only get 3-star armor pieces, 3-star weapon pieces. It's not great. So we ignore that. We move on. We go to crafting. We go straight into crafting and we go to weapon first. We'll talk about armor pieces and we'll talk about how important armor pieces are, especially to a certain mechanic in the game, right? So we'll leave that for later on. We're gonna start with weapon pieces, okay? Now, in terms of weapon pieces, the most important thing to note when you're starting off and when you're getting into the game is that each character, not each unit, each character has their signature weapon. So for example, Cursed Great Spear, if you go over to details on the top left, you can see that the unit effect is Dix. Only Dix can unlock its true power. So if you put Cursed Great Spear on any other unit, let's say Shakti or let's say Finn or anybody else who can use a spear, they won't be able to extract the maximum potential of this weapon. So they'll have a lower attack stat, they'll have some of the attributes not working, stuff like that basically. So you do not want to give a weapon to an off unit basically. There are some weapons that can be used on any unit, like for example War Princess's ear cuffs. Obviously there are some things that happen here, like for example this reduces HP max but gives you STR penetration and critical rate, which is pretty solid, right? But you do lose out on HP percentage here, but we'll come on to that later on, and we can talk about these weapons in another video particularly, because I feel like these weapons aren't bad, but they can be quite questionable, but we'll come on to them in the future. Now, our main focus is going to be on exclusive weapons for characters because those are what most players use anyways, right? And if we go over to filter, right? If you go over to filter and you're trying to figure out like, oh, I want to find a weapon for, let's say, Artie, right? There's the new Artie. She's a magic unit and she will need her own signature weapon. So how do I go and find a weapon for Artie that's for her? So I click on regular. So you see these 2 arrows, click on that and then you get this full list. It'll allow you to effectively filter out, depending on what character you choose, you can filter out their weapon basically. So you have the likes of the normal characters like Belle, Eyes, you have the likes of, you know, Beth, Chloe, stuff like that. But then if you scroll down, you get the anniversary units in here. You got the likes of Elise, Lyra, Kaguya, Zard, Althea, Valletta is there. Then you have Fiona, Finn. You have the collaboration characters as well, like Toka, Origami, Kurumi, so on and so forth. Now, one thing to note before I go any further and go into the weapons itself and start going and delving into that, the collaboration characters, unfortunately, and this is a big issue I have with Danmachi, for some reason, you can't craft their weapons outside of the collaboration period. In my opinion, that's one of the biggest losses that they've done, in all honesty, and one of the biggest L's they've taken is that they can't just leave these weapons as craftable weapons for players to, you know, craft, right? It becomes really, really tricky. Trust me, as somebody who was trying to use Toka on the light physical team for Record Buster, I couldn't because I didn't have her weapon. So I wasn't, you know, maxing out my damage, unfortunately. So that's something to note as well. Now, if you go over to Artie now, let's remove Origami as the filter and let's go over to Artie. We want to craft a weapon for Artie, right? So what we have here is basically we have a list of weapons that we can craft for her that'll work on her. But of course, you want to craft her weapons. Well, luckily for you, whenever you select a character, their weapons, their signature weapons will always be the first two. It'll be Magic Sacred Oath and Sacred Oath for Artie. For another unit, it'll be something else. Now, one thing to note is that whenever it's a magic unit, it'll be or a magic weapon, it will say magic or M, or it'll be their own weapon that's magic from the get-go. You have to see it and check for yourself. Is it a physical attack or magic attack? You can easily see that by this top left, you know, stat over here, next to the 190 to 230. It's P attack. So Sacred Oath is physical. Now, there are weapons that will also say physical dot name of weapon. That'll be the physical version of the weapon. So just keep in mind that that's a convention they use. Is it's either M magic weapon name, or it's physical P weapon name, or it's just weapon name alone. So you have to be a bit careful when you're crafting your weapons and see what type of weapon you want before you actually just jump straight in, right? So I have the new Artie. I want to create Magic Sacred Oath because the original Sacred Oath is for the original Artie because she was physical back then. This one, however, is a magic version. So we want Magic Sacred Oath, and you can see in the bottom left that there are crafting materials required. Gold ore and true forged iron. Now, for the gold ore and any of those types of materials, they're very easy to farm. You only have to go to Boost, you have to go to Crafting Quest, and just farm the collect ore stage for the gold ore, or any other stage, basically, depending on what you need. They're very cheap and very, very easy to complete because it's literally costing you 1 stamina. You can do infinite amount of runs. Like literally, I can do 476 runs if I really wanted to right now. And in all honesty, by the time you're doing your runs, your stamina will also start accumulating back up. So you're going to be able to just do it again and again and again. And, you know, the stamina will come back in time for you to get another set of runs in, basically, right? And if you use my auto AFK farm guide that I made, if you want, you can go check it out. It's on the channel. You can easily do these stages on repeat like 100+ times consistently, no matter what. And it's so easy. So getting the gold ore and stuff, it's not difficult at all. Now, the true forged iron and those character specific materials, because each character's weapon has a specific material aligned to them. So you want to get those materials. So how do you get those materials? Well, in Artie's case, or the true forged iron, and Elise's weapon, you can easily get those by doing a Midsummer Night's Sabbath. Now, whenever a new weapon comes out or something along those lines, whatever the new event is, they will always have a way for you to basically get that material. Sometimes it's via the gacha, sometimes it's via the exchange. In this case, of course, because there is no gacha, you can basically exchange the event items for one of these materials, basically, right? So you can get True Forged Iron for 15 of the event currency, or Blessed Steel for 15 of the event currency. So very, very easy. But let's say you're trying to go for Ice's weapon, right? And you need her material. So what do? Well, you have to go to the shop and you go to Special Exchange, go to Materials Exchange, and you want to exchange those blue stones for whatever Ice's material is, or Lafia's material. For example, Forestier's, if I'm not mistaken, is Lafia's weapon material. Now, that is something that's good, right? You can easily exchange this, but how do you get this material? Well, it's actually from the crafting quest. Again, it's a rare drop. It's kind of like if you were trying to get Hero Polna from the Polna quest. It's a bit rare, but you can easily get it. Like, for example, if I wanted to do collect ores, let's say I did collect ores, right? I'm trying to craft a new weapon. I'll do 10 quest skips. I'm just going to do quest skips because it's easier for us. I don't have to run the risk of potentially not getting the item. I hope I get the item. There you go. I get 2 of those moonstones, and I get a couple of other items which we'll talk about in just a second. The Mystic Bellows and Secret Hammers. We'll talk about them. But there you go. Very, very easy. I can now craft my weapon because I have the materials. Obviously, I've already had the materials, but this is something for you guys to know. So there you have it. That's how you craft the weapon and how you identify what you want to get, what weapon you want to craft, basically, right? So let me filter it again because I left the blacksmith, so I have to filter it again. We go to Magic Sacred Oath. I craft it. Okay, so now that the crafting process is done, this animation appears. You can easily skip it or you can let it play out. Now, as you guys might have seen there, I only got a gold bar or gold ingot. Now, when it goes rainbow, it means you've basically gotten the best stats on the left hand side. So you got 230, 950, I think it is, for the durability, which is great. That's perfect. Obviously, I didn't. I got 221 and 928. And if you look on the right hand side in terms of the special, I only got match 10 plus 10 as the extra stat. Something to note when you're crafting, right, is that you get special attributes as an add-on. So you get 15% crit rate base no matter what. That 15% critical happens on every weapon. If you see any weapon that's, you know, a signature weapon, you will get it no matter what. Like, for example, Desperate has critical plus 15%. It obviously, Desperate also has an additional bonus where durability does not increase, which is great. But you look at any other special weapon, Raul, 15% crit. Tearing Pain, Phyllis's weapon, 15% crit. So there's always that. So you don't have to worry about that stat. But the additional stats, you can get extra 3 attributes: match plus 30, match plus 10, HE at 30 plus, Dex plus 30, and critical plus 15%. Ideally, this is now where I want you to listen to me. Ideally, depending on what game mode you're primarily using that unit for, you want to go for agility, you want to go for their main stats, so magic, STR, whatever it may be, and extra critical. That's it. Those are the 3 stats you want to go for. Dexterity plus 30 isn't a bad thing as well, but agility plus 30 and match plus 30 plus the 15% crit is very, very important. Those are the base attributes you want to have when you're rolling these weapons, basically. So I've crafted that weapon, but it's not perfect. What do I do next, right? Well, we have to go to the Rehammer stage, but we'll do that in just a moment because I didn't talk about armor pieces. Now, armor pieces, there are a lot of additions that they've added, you know, over the time, right? Initially, it was only stuff like breastplate, swift armor. You craft those, you're good to go, right? Now, you've got so much more. You've got revolving anklets, you've got Galmusa ring, you've got Entario the Jester. These are some interesting armor pieces, but the key ones you want to look out for, in my personal opinion, is if you go to ornament, you want to craft your glorious anklets because these give you any sort of resist you want. Basically, anything and everything is in here, basically, in terms of ailments. The ones you primarily want here are sleep, seal, and stun, because more often than not, when you go into Record Buster, the bosses will do one of these 3 ailments, basically. And it's the same thing with even modes like Familiar Rush and stuff like that. One of these 3 ailments are going to hit you. So you always want to have a Glorious Anklet for one of these resistances, in all honesty. So that is stun, sleep, seal. Primary 3 ones, okay? Now, the Revolving Amulet is a armor piece that is revolutionary. It was something that we had been wanting for a very, very long time, because at one point when we were playing the game, right, because we wanted to take advantage of more assists, you know, we want assists to, you know, be able to buff up the characters or debuff the enemy, right? But we just didn't have enough slots because, you know, how do we get a unit out of there if we don't want to use it, because we want the other assists to come in and stuff like that. So what we do at one point, and this was early in the day, basically early in the game cycle, we would take level 1 units, hope they die, bring in the next unit, hope they die, and then the final unit comes in, the last slot unit, right? Whereas the main 3 stay on the field. But they, I think, listened to us, they saw what we were doing, and instead they released these revolving anklets, which allows you to basically remove the unit without having to make them die basically, which allows you to level up your characters and stuff like that, which was really nice. And that's what these revolving anklets are for. I craft usually 4 of them so that I have spares and subs basically. So you want to craft 2 revolving M amulets and 2 revolving P amulets. The stats on these really don't matter, but obviously if you can get that 30 plus agility and maybe plus 30 STR, always helps, right? It always helps. Or match plus 30. The agility is nice because you can go first basically, right? That's the main thing. And in terms of other gears you can craft, I would say breastplate is probably the next best thing you can go for, right? In my personal opinion, breastplate is fantastic. It's a great gear piece. Guard plus 15%, endurance plus 20, and agility plus 30. Those should be the key stats you go for. And then in terms of robe, there are some decent options. Of course, you got one for each, type resistance, of course, right? And it'll help you out in certain events like Record Buster against Reverio, right? Because Reverio does elemental attacks and they can deal a lot of damage. Same with Finn as well. So you want to take, you want to make sure you craft like 4 of each type. So Holy Coat, Light Resistance, 4 of those. 4 of these Frost Coats, which is water resistance. 4 of these Flame Coats, which is fire resistance. I was gonna say pyro. Play too much Genshin. But yeah, you want to craft these basically. So there's that. So that's how you craft the armor pieces, and that's the weapon pieces. Those are the ones you should look out for, okay? Now we go over to rehammering, because I'm not happy with what I rolled with magic Sacred Oath. I almost forgot the name of the sword. But I'm not happy. I'm not happy at all. I want to go and pick up a better I want to level up the weapon, and but I don't want to use that type of weapon because it's too weak, right? So what rehammering does is basically it allows you to rehammer your weapon. I mean, it's in the name, and change its stats. So secret hammers are used for rehammering the stats basically. So the magic attack and durability will get rerolled. And the beautiful thing is that wherever it's at, it can only go up from there. It'll stay there or go up from there. So you don't have to worry about it going down or anything of that sort. So it'll only go up to 230. And then on the other side, if you go over to attributes, and if we were to go and click that again, where is Artie? There she is. And if I want to re-roll her stats, I can do that. But this will re-roll her attributes. So this is really handy. There's 2 ways to do it, and like you saw earlier on, you can get these Mystic Bellows and Secret Hammers from just farming that crafting quest. So something to note and something to do potentially in the future when you're doing your weapon and gear builds basically for your team. So I'm not happy. I'm gonna recraft. And the one thing to note when you're doing your attribute rerolls, and this is something that they just recently added actually about a year ago or so, or in the last couple of months, I would say. I don't remember exactly when this was added, but Goiben News lockets are something you can get basically. So if you use 100 Mystic Bellows, so basically if you roll, you use 5 Mystic Bellows per reroll effectively, right? Or per rehammer. So you would need basically 20 of these. So 20 times 5 basically is what you need, right? So you need to reroll 20 times to get 1 lock, and you can use 3 locks to basically lock an attribute in its position. So for example, I want to I'm gonna re-roll right now, right? So I'm re-rolling. I'm gonna skip it because I don't need it. I want to lock my 30 plus 30 magic, right? I would need 3 of these locks. So you basically need to have 300 Mystic Bellows in order to basically get 1 of these locks effectively, right? And that means you need to do it 60 times, 60 rerolls basically, in order to be able to lock an attribute. It's a bit costly, but considering this thing is farmable and all you have to do is just keep rerolling again and again and again, you can easily get it, in my opinion. I don't think it's that bad. It's just a very tedious affair in order to get the right stats. So now I've got plus 30 dexterity and plus 15 critical, which is great, but it's not what we want, right? So I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna do 2 more rerolls just for us to see exactly what's happening. That's actually not bad in all honesty. It's just like the plus 15 critical, and okay, I'm gonna leave it at I like this because this is a good alternative. If you can't get that 3rd stat, you can keep it like this, and then when you get more locks, you can then just lock these stats and then re-roll for that 3rd attribute potentially, which would be insane, right? So that's something you can do. Now I want to make sure my magic attack is 230. I want to make sure it's the highest possible that it can be basically. So I'm going to go into RD again. The only thing I wish Danmemo did was keep the filter active, because I'm literally going between menus in crafting already in the blacksmith. So that's one thing I wish they did, but it's okay. So now I have 590. I just have to keep going basically. So that didn't work out. I just have to keep going again. So that's it. We keep going. We keep going. We try and get that 230. Obviously, the best thing about this, like I said, is that it never goes down, but it does hurt a little bit to see the stats remaining the same. Like, we've not seen it go up even once, but the thing is, it's already so close to 230. It's understandable as to why it's not going up. Of course, you can let it reroll on its own, right? You could probably set up an auto farm, kind of like how, or auto reroll, kind of like how I mentioned for auto farming stages, right? You could probably do that. In all honesty, there is a very, very easy way of doing it, in my personal opinion. It's just going to require you to set it up basically as you go along. I'm surprised we haven't seen one single upgrade. Okay, there we go, 226. So as you guys can see, it will go up. It's just that because it's so close to 230, it's a very rare occurrence. Albeit, I will say, usually it happens a lot faster for me personally. I've never had a real significant issue. This is the first time I think it's taking this long for me to get to 230, but more often than not, it's very, very easy. So I'm just gonna leave it like this. I can get the 230 later on. We move on to the next step. You can do it for both weapons and armors, the rehammering, which is great. But we move on to the next step, which is now we want to upgrade our piece of weaponry, right? Now we go into weapon, we click, or we can see it right here. Actually, no, that's M Crimson order we have right there. I want to follow the way I do it normally. So I'm going to show you exactly how, if I were to max out a weapon, how would I do it, right? So I have Magic Sacred Oath right here, and I want to upgrade it. Now, like I've said, you can get whetstones super easily from just farming the event and then just exchanging the event currency, in all honesty. It's so easy. 1 plus 99 with the small whetstones gets you to 40 immediately. So that's not something to worry about. You can get super successes as well, by the way, which will be basically allowing you to effectively max out a weapon for cheaper. But yeah, we get it to level 40. Now we smelt it to uncap its level. So from 4 stars, it goes to 5 stars. It'll cost me 100,000, but that's fine. It uses 5 small smelting stones and 5 medium smelting stones. So I click yes, I want to upgrade it. It doesn't unlock any attributes at this point. So I'm just going to continue on. There you go. There's the super success. Beautiful. Absolutely nice. I wasn't expecting a super success while we were recording. I'm not going to lie. So now we have to take it from 5 stars to 6 stars. So we just do that. It's 10 smelting stones smalls, 10 medium smelting stones, and 3 large smelting stones. Now, this is where things get tricky, because the big issue with Danmachi, especially if you're playing the game early on, is that events only give, I think it is 7 smelting stone larges. So you're going to be struggling a little bit because you can only use it on like 2 weapons and 2 pieces of gear, actually, because the smelting requirements across armor and weapons are pretty much the same. So, you know, it's a little bit expensive in that regards to go from 50 to 60, because you would have to do at least like 2 or 3 events to be able to deck out your entire team in terms of weapons only. If you want to include armors, it's another thing entirely. That's probably like 5 or 6 events in total, if not more, right? So that's something to note, is that it won't be easy whatsoever. It'll be a time-consuming process. It'll be a slow process. There are other ways to also get large smelting stones. Usually it's via missions as well, right? Some missions do give you the ability to basically get these. Usually it's from Wreck-It Buster or doing 7 zone, for example, right? If you go over to the 7 zone, right? I haven't done my 7 zone for the week yet, but if you just go into your score rankings, right? Or ranking rewards, I should say. If you go into ranking rewards, you can see you get these whetstones and stuff, but you also get missions that you can complete from doing these effectively, and they give you like smelting stones as rewards and stuff. So that's something to keep in mind, all right? So let's continue with the upgrades. I want to upgrade my Magic Sacred Oath. I've smelted it, and we can go from there. Upgrade success. Beautiful. So now you've maxed out your weapon. It's level 60. You've maxed it out. You've done a fantastic job there. Whetstones is super easy to farm. You don't even need large whetstones. It's just there to make life go faster. Now I want to go even further beyond. Now this is where it becomes a little bit like mid to late game stuff effectively, because you have to clear a 7 zone for this. Now, as you saw, we were at 7 zone just a moment ago. You saw the rewards being like a pink item and a blue item, right? We go into equipment ascension and we go into armor first. Let's go into armor. If you want to ascend your armor beyond level 60, as you guys have seen, I'm already at 60 to 65 now. This is level 65. I want to go to 70. A new attribute is unlocked every 2 stars. and I have to use these pink stones for armor pieces. So I want to ascend this, I'm gonna ascend this mat, or this weapon, this armor, and I get a counter rate on attack minus 10%. So it's really good because it basically allows you to get a lot more. And you can see what the ascension attribute list is right here for 2 stars, 4 stars, and 6 stars. So counter rate on attack minus 10%, critical rate when attacked minus 10%, penetration rate when attacked minus 10%. And this is for the foe, by the way. This is for the enemy. So it's really valuable to make sure you get your equipment ascended. Obviously, because you're going to be using a limited amount of armor depending on where and when you go, basically. Like, for example, for war games, you're going to use like 6 breastplates. For Record Buster, you're going to use 4 glorious anklets and maybe like or 4 robes, basically, right? So it's not difficult to achieve these things. In all honesty, you're going to be able to do that, right? But that's the armor piece. Weapons are a lot more trickier because you're going to get new weapons regularly. Armor pieces stay stagnant for the most part, right? But weapons, they keep getting updates, man, because you keep getting new characters, you get new weapons. That means the entire process has to be done again. And in all honesty, I'm curious to see how many I have of these. I only have 228. The other side, I had 600 plus because I'm done with my armor pieces for the most part. I think I have a couple of pieces here and there to do, like for example that glorious anklet, but for the most part I'm done with that. I have to do a lot of weapon farming and stuff, right? So that's where things get a little bit tricky. Now, for weapons, if we were to look at it, right? If I were to look at Diarmid's Knight's Sword, this is Lazar's weapon. I'm going to ignore Artie's weapon for now. We're going to look at Diarmid's Knight's Sword. So for Lazar's weapon, it's guard rate on attack minus 10%, penetration damage plus 3%, and critical damage plus 3%. Good enough. It's not significant bonuses, but it's good enough. The main thing you're getting from doing this, in all honesty, is you're getting the stats boost. Because at max, right, if you were to look at a max weapon, we'll have to go to Rehammer and see it. It's 410 magic attack versus what was 350 basically, right? At level 60, it's 350. You're getting effectively 60 plus attack, which is, it's a significant amount, mind you. It's a very significant amount. It's something to keep note of and keep track of, in all honesty. So bear that in mind. So that's about it, in all honesty, in terms of getting your weapon, crafting it, to fully ascending it, right? It's very costly. It's not cheap at all because right now you can see it requires me to ascend it to 16. I'm gonna get Lazar's weapon up because inevitably I might get Lazar plus 5, the Earth Lazar, right? So if I were to max out his weapon, right, that's 16. Then it's 16 again for 5 stars, and then finally it's 16 again. So initially, if I'm not mistaken, it's only 8 and 8. So the first 2 steps is 8 and 8, so it's 16. But then the next 4 steps is another 16 per step, basically, right? So it's a pretty expensive affair. You're gonna have to do 7 zone regularly, week in, week out. It's why I always say make sure you do your 7 zone runs. Otherwise, you're gonna be basically lost, in all honesty, in terms of like, I don't have the materials for equipment ascension. What do? I'm going to be lagging behind. So yeah, just make sure you do your 7 zones as best as you can. Like I said, even if it takes you to turn 20, which is the maximum limited turns, just do it. Just try and get it done because it's a massive advantage. It's a huge advantage you can get over other players if you can get your equipment ascended, in all honesty. But that's pretty much it. After that, if you want to work on, you know, your weapons are broken or anything, you can go into repair because the durability goes down. Like if I were to look at some of my gear, they're around 800, 500. They're not too bad, right? They're not too bad. If I go to my armor, yeah, they look good as well. They're nothing's too broken. But if I really want to just quickly repair it, I click on repair all. It uses up my Valis, but it's very cheap. It's literally just it's cheap as chips. It's 300k, but let's be real, I'm at 200 million more not Mora. God damn it, I'm playing too much Genshin. It's at 200 million Valis. It's very easy to do, and it's no issue whatsoever. In my opinion, the repair system in this is probably one of the best ones, in all honesty. And the thing that happens when your durability goes down is basically the stats go down. That's pretty much what happens when the durability is at 0. There's no like, oh, at 200 it becomes useless or anything of that sort. At 0 it does become useless technically, but it's not hard to repair it. But there you guys go. There is the complete guide of weapons and armor pieces. I don't think I have much more to add in terms of farming the Mystic Bellows and stuff like that. Like I said, you just want to put this on repeat, basically the crafting quest. There are once a day quests coming up for crafting materials, if I'm not mistaken, as well, so that's good. Along with that, dispatch quests can give you the Mystic Bellows and secret hammers as well. but in all honesty, you can get a much better stock from crafting quests in my opinion. Along with that, 7 zone clears, like I said, doing just the missions for 7 zone will give you mystic bellows and secret hammers, and a lot of them in fact. So keep that in mind. But there you guys go. There was a complete guide of weapons and armor pieces. Let me know if you guys want to know anything else. Any questions, leave it in the comments. I'll be willing to answer any and all questions. And once again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. It's a 30-minute guide, but I mean, guides are supposed to be long. What can I say? Once again, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye, everybody.